chores over. I can finally relax and watch some TV. Oh, hey Sylvie. We got a name, don't we? Yeah, D-Tour was a lot of fun. It was exhausting, but it was fun. Yeah, there were a lot of girls there. What's your point? Yes, I talked to girls. Yes, I talked to girls. What are you getting at? No, I didn't get any numbers. Patreon. No, I didn't get any dates or emails or why are you asking me this, man? You know what, that stings a little bit. You don't need to be like that, dude. Maybe the Daily Show's on. Hey guys, Geek again. So, been a little hectic lately. Been having camera issues. I think I've got them worked out, so let's try this. I've already tried to do this once, so I apologize if the board is a little messed up. And, well, here's what we're trying to do. As I said in an earlier video, I actually met Gwen Stacy. Not a cosplayer, not an actress, the Gwen Stacy. Please believe that. And I asked her, I'm kind of a fan, you know, Spider-Man freak, you're going to be a fan. So I asked her, what kind of video would you like to see? And the two she came up with was first a Gwen Stacy subject video, which I really would like to do, but I can't justify a whole episode on that. Maybe I can after Spider-Gwen picks up a little bit, but as of right now I really don't feel there's enough there. There's definitely a huge history, but it takes a lot of research doing these videos, and on top of that, I just don't think there's enough there. And the other subject she asked for was the loves of Peter Parker. Now, for those of you who don't know, that is Spider-Man, and he has been around over 50 years, and he has gotten a lot of girlfriends in that time, or a lot of one-night stands, whatever you want to call it. He's gotten a lot of attention from the female community. So this is my list of the top 10 romantic interests that Spider-Man has had over the years. Now, the rules going into this are obviously, first, this is my own personal list. If you disagree with me, fine. Put down a comment in the comments area, positive or negative, whatever. I want to hear what you guys have to think. And two, we're dipping only into the 616 universe, which means it's the official normal Marvel continuity. We're not going into MC2. We're not going into the cinematic universe. We're not going into Ultimate Universe because it's just way too much to deal with. I don't have that kind of time or patience. So let's get right to it.
Number 10.
Number 10. See if this will work properly for once. I don't know if you guys can see this. Deborah Whitman. See, this list is very hard to put together. So there was a couple I just had to push in to make it a 10. Oh, wait. Yeah. Long day. Deborah Whitman was a character they dated in the college days, and what happened with her was that she actually figured out that Peter Parker was Spider-Man. Now, keep in mind, I'm not 100% sure on some of these facts because you get facts from the internet and not actually reading the books. You're gonna miss some facts, and unless I have billions of dollars, I'm not gonna be able to get every book. Even the trades are expensive now. But she figured out Peter Parker was Spider-Man, but she thought that was such a unbelievable theory that she couldn't believe it, and she had to break up with Peter Parker, feeling that this thought was going to drive her insane. And after he unmasked himself after Civil War, it came back to him in a way, and I have yet to read that story. I think I have those books, but I haven't read it yet, and I don't remember how it turned out, but obviously the Brand New Day storyline has negated all of that.
Number 9.
So number 9 is Liz Allen. Can you see? Okay. Liz Allen was his high school crush, and he finds out much later that she had a crush on him as well. But it never worked out. I don't even know if they ever really dated. She ended up marrying Harry Osborn, and she was there in full swing with her son, Normie, the son of the second Green Goblin, when he died. So it's big traumatic connection between her and Spider-Man, whether it was romantic or not. And she's currently running a company that's opposing Parker Industries, which is a company Dr. Octopus created when he was inside the brain of Peter Parker during the Superior Spider-Man story arc. I really don't know what their relationship is now. I think it's like a healthy rivalry. That's what I'm getting, but I could easily be wrong in that. I've missed some books between Superior and now. I just jumped back in during Spider-Verse, and it's I don't know. I need to catch up.
Number 8.
And I apologize because these letters are getting rubbed off. Number 10, 9. Number 8 is Betty Brant. Now, when you watch a cartoon from the 80s, or you hear about anything Spider-Man outside of the comic interest from the first 30, maybe 40 years, Betty Brant was their go-to love interest. And it was really nothing more beyond high school sweetheart crush kind of thing. She was a little older. She worked for, she was J. Jonah Jameis' secretary. They had a romantic interest for a while, but that kind of crashed down when Spider-Man was involved with the murder of her brother. He didn't do it. Doc Ock did it, but obviously it's a Spider-Man story, so he's going to get implicated, and that's going to cause a lot of problems. So it never really turned into much. She ended up marrying Ned Leeds, who at one point was the Hobgoblin. Brainwashing was involved. I don't pretend to understand that much of the story. And somewhere after the Brand New Day story arc, they kind of almost got back together for a little bit, but it didn't turn out again. I don't remember 100% what went on, so let's just move on.
Number 7.
Number 7 is Carly Cooper. They dated for quite a while, and this was post Brand New Day, and she was a police, I want to say forensics officer, and they were doing really well until the Spider Island story arc. At one point during this story arc, everybody's gaining spider powers, including Carly Cooper, which I gotta admit was very entertaining to see her not knowing Peter was Spider-Man and showing off her newly acquired spider powers and strength, just picking Peter up and just showing off, hey, look how strong I am, and like, I kind of like that. But what happened was during this story arc, people were freaking out because they had spider powers. Some people were doing it right, some people were not, obviously. And of course the Jackal's involved, so it's going to be messed up. But at one point Peter goes on TV and saying, I'm Peter Parker, I have spider powers, we need to do this to get a hold on things. That was just vague enough to admit he's Spider-Man in the eyes of a spell that was cast by Doctor Strange to eliminate the public knowing his secret identity. Now, this is very complicated in that the story we read was the One More Day, Brand New Day story arc, in which Mephisto kind of rewrote time starting at the events of their wedding, which in the post Brand New Day story arc never happened. What they are thinking happened is that Doctor Strange cast a spell that negated the world from knowing his secret identity. But when Peter Parker goes on television and says this just vaguely enough that he's Spider-Man, that negates the spell, not reminding everybody who he is, but making it possible for people to figure it out on their own. Because during the course of the spell, somehow it would negate people's thoughts on starting to put the pieces together, and it would just say, no, that can't be right. And it removes that, so people have common sense and thinking, well, wait a minute, he could be Spider-Man. And Carly figured it out, and she was pissed. And that ended everything for a long time. She showed up again later, but there was no romantic stuff after that.
Number 6.
Black Cat, Felicia Hardy. This was complicated and frustrating. As of right now, they are not a couple. Felicia has gone way down the dark side. But back in, I want to say the 70s, she started as a cat burglar in the steps of her father. And she'd gotten quite a name for herself, and Spidey went after her, and this developed into a relationship. And at one point, he unmasks himself for her. And she does not want anything to do with Peter Parker. She has the hots for Spider-Man, not Peter Parker. And it got very bad at one point with this. And I honestly don't know why he stayed with her after that. But I don't remember why, but it didn't work out. I think it had something to do with the alien symbiote story, but it just didn't happen. You know, it wasn't in the cards. And they stayed friends for a very long time until Superior Spider-Man. Doc Ock messed up a lot of stuff, including Black Cat. Now, I haven't read this story, and I really wish I did, because it definitely messed things up. And as of right now, Cat is deep in the criminal underworld, and she has no interest in coming out.
Number 5.
Ms. Marvel, Carol Danvers. Again, this is a story I never read, but it's pretty prominently publicized in the internet. I don't think it was more than just a fling. I think they had a date that never worked out because their super ring got in the way. But I really wanted to see more of this relationship, mostly because it's very rare you get to see two superheroes in a relationship. I mean, it happens a lot, obviously. There's Jessica Jones and Luke Cage. There's The Vision and Scarlet Witch. There's a lot more that I can't think of right now. But this would have been really interesting if they had done it right. And I don't know why, but there's this big interest in this story of the idea of the girl in the relationship being farly superior in terms of powers and strength to the male. I don't know why, I just really enjoy that. But I don't think it worked out. I think it was just like a one-night stand kind of situation. Again, I haven't read the story, so I don't know 100%, but this is always a relationship I would have liked to have seen more of.
Number 4.
Next. Are we doing this right? Let's go like this. Anna Maria Marconi. This one's kind of difficult to explain, as opposed to the other ones. During the Superior Spider-Man story arc, which I admit I have not read most of, but I did some research, I do know a little bit about this. Doc Ock fell in love with Anna Marie. And it was definitely not completely a physical thing, because I don't know if this affects the relationship. It really shouldn't. And I do not mean to be offensive to anybody when I say this, because I don't know the proper terminology. I think the proper term is little people, or little person, but they've been referred to as dwarfs or midgets. She is a little person, which does not hurt her as a character at all. In fact, she is a very, very intelligent character. And when when Peter Parker regained control of his body, they split up. And again, I haven't read this because I didn't jump in until Spider-Verse. But they're no longer a couple. They're good friends, from what I can tell. She's helping him run Parker Industries, and she's keeping the secret. She figured out he's Spider-Man. I don't know how long that secret was being kept, but I think it jumped the shark while Peter was in the wheel. And she's keeping a secret. She is helping him with everything, but she is very blunt. If he's trying to keep a secret or something, she will throw out just enough truth to not give away his Spider-Man secret. And I just love the idea of this very unlikely character not only staying friends so close after a breakup, so close after the person she apparently loved has, for lack of a better term, died, but she's sticking with the secret. She's not... It's unbelievable to me. And I love it. I can't get enough of it. So now we are at the final three. These are my choices that I think people are going to give me hate for. And this next one specifically, I have to apologize to the person who suggested this video.
Number 3.
Number 3 is Gwen Stacy. Now, bear with me. First of all, there are a great mass of contenders here. Any one of these girls, in the right circumstances, could have hit number 1. And Gwen Stacy is definitely a prime contender for this. I don't want to say she's overrated. She's definitely got the biggest story of any of the girls in Peter Parker's life. But I really can't base her whole status on the list on the way she died, which was a massively important story in any comic book world you want to live in. And for those of you who don't know, this is going to take me a minute. She was going to be the girl that Peter ended up with. That's the plan Stan Lee had. But times were getting darker, and at the same time, Stan couldn't stick on every book. He had a much bigger role in Marvel, so he had to go and do all these things, and he couldn't write the stories anymore. And from interviews with him, he says that he was okay with this at the time, but didn't remember, and was surprised when the story came out. The way she died, the Green Goblin kidnaps her. She's either knocked out or dead at the time. We don't know. Takes her to the George Washington Bridge. During a fight with Spidey, throws her over the bridge. Spidey, in a desperate move, shoots a web line to catch her. He snags her leg, but the sudden stop snaps her neck. If she wasn't dead before, she is dead now. Dead instantly. We are never able to know how, if she would have survived, had not. All we know is an injury that would have caused death, one way or another, was caused because of Spider-Man. And it's not really his fault. Maybe it is. That could be argued, I guess. But this was a death that was so massively important to the comic book world. It changed everything. Suddenly, big characters could die. Suddenly, superheroes had consequences. They couldn't... Superheroes were not that kind of thing where, like, they could do no wrong, and they always stopped the bad guy, and all this stuff. And this was during the heyday of the comic code, where you could not get away with anything. So this death was massively important in the history and the story arcs of comic books, anything after. Having said that, she's definitely an interesting character. She's definitely a girl meant for Peter. And what adds to the whole depression of her death was that a couple issues before, her father died in a fight with Doc Ock. Doc Ock always seems to get involved. Well, the problem is, for some reason, she blamed Spider-Man for that fight. She blamed Spider-Man for her father's death. Pete was going to propose to her. How can you propose to the girl you love when she thinks you, in another form, killed her father? And he was juggling with this at the time when the Goblin decided to show up and cause a lot of problems. I don't think she... I haven't been able to read that actual story, which sucks. It's such a big, important story. But I don't think she ever knew who he was. And that's really too bad, because we've seen other incarnations of Gwen where she has heard it, she's learned the facts, and she's accepted it. But our Gwen Stacy, our 616 Gwen Stacy, never knew who he was. Now, in recent years, during the Spider-Verse stories, we have learned another Gwen Stacy, who is in another reality, but I feel because of the events of Spider-Verse, she deserves to be brought up. In this alternate universe, she got bit by the super spider, and Peter Parker was just another kid who continued to get bullied in high school. And suddenly, on top of that, his girlfriend, who I don't even know if they were dating at the time, because the story that started all this is very, very vague on some of the details. It was just like a pre-story leading up to Spider-Verse. We really didn't get to learn all that much about it. But because of all the teasing and all the guys saying, oh, you need a girl to save you from the teasing and all that, that got to him. And that's going to get to any teenager, stuff like that. And it's not really saying that, oh, you need a girl to defend yourself, because any girl is as strong as any guy in stuff like this. That's not the factor. The factor is you can't defend yourself, somebody else has to come to your aid, and even though they're trying to help, that's a huge emotional downer. You feel like you're weak and inferior because you can't defend yourself against high school bullies. Which is definitely a big problem, but to a kid, that's basically saying you're inadequate at life. Deal with it. So, because of this, through story that I'm not going to get into, he turns himself into the lizard. And he ends up dying. So now Gwen is dealing with the death of Peter, much earlier in her career than Peter dealt with Gwen's death. Now take that, and then throw her in 616 universe, in the middle of a huge spider war. She meets dozens of Peter Parkers, including our Peter Parker, including Superior Spider-Man Peter Parker, including May Parker, Spider-Girl from an alternate reality's future. She has to see the boy she loved who died as an adult and having seen her death. I can't imagine how traumatic that could be for anybody. And it's really tough to put her at number 3. But I feel these other two characters have earned their spots. And honestly, I couldn't decide between these two. We have the number 2 and the number 1 spot, and I had to put them at a tie for number 1. So there's no number 2 spot, unless you want to count Gwen as that number 2 spot, which would honestly fit if you wanted to. So we're going to go with the more famous one first, which is, and we'll go by normal numbers. So for lack of a better term, this will be number 2.
Number 2.
Mary Jane Watson. Now I really don't feel I need to explain this, but I'm going to give you the short version. She's been around since I think issue 36, and that's only when we got a full glimpse of her. Before that, she was always hidden behind a lamp or something in the comics. We didn't really get to see her, but we knew she was there. I think she first showed up like that in issue 16. That's in the 60s, man, and she's still in Spider-Man comics. Not in as strong of a degree, but she's still there. She married Peter Parker. In fact, I have the issue right here. Give me a second. This really should be on bag and board, but they got married in Amazing Spider-Man Annual number 21 in 1987. Wow, I thought it was earlier than that. But they married. They had a kid, which sadly did not survive. But it did survive. You know what? This is a whole other story I'm not even going to get into. Plus, I'm pretty sure the One More Day, Brand New Day story arc negated all of this. She has always been there for Peter. She actually saw Peter climb out the window as Spider-Man early in his career before he understood his spider sense. So he didn't realize his spider sense was telling him, somebody's watching, don't go outside. He just went out. He didn't know what it meant. And Mary Jane kept that secret for until the early 80s. And one day she just told him, I know you're Spider-Man, don't deny it. And it's this big, long story of how she's just been keeping this secret all these years. And they married in 87, and that marriage lasted until the Brand New Day story arc, where Aunt May is hospitalized. She's been shot because Spider-Man released his identity to the world earlier in an earlier story, Civil War. Kingpin puts a hit out on him. Somebody takes a shot at him. His spider sense warns him. He gets out of the way. The bullet hits Aunt May. She is now comatose. She is brain dead. And Peter will not accept this. Which, honestly, I feel is a small character flaw in the story. But we're not going to get into that. He goes to Doctor Strange. He goes to Iron Man. He goes to anybody he can. And he's a criminal at this point, after the Registration Act. So he's just busting his butt to try to save his Aunt May. And then he's given an offer by Mephisto, by the devil. And he's told the devil, you can't have my soul. And I think he told... You know what? I don't remember what he said about the soul thing. But Mephisto's like, I don't want your soul. You know what hell is full of? People who've given up their soul, pushing that rock up the hill for an eternity, being able to go on because they did it for a good cause. He did not want his soul. He wanted their marriage. He wanted that moment in time that changed everything. And Peter was going to say no. But Mary Jane convinced him to do it. I don't know why. There was a whisper involved that we got to hear later, but it was so much later, I didn't remember it in the context anymore. So unless I put those two issues together, which I really should do, I don't really understand the whole context of why she convinced Peter to do this. They're still in each other's lives, but they're not together the way they should be anymore. They had a child together. They were married in our timeline for 20 plus years. But there's an upcoming story in the Secret Wars which may be retconning that. There's a cover that's been circulated, a comic book cover, of a maskless Spider-Man holding Mary Jane in one hand and 5 to 10-year-old daughter on his shoulder. And this is the biggest reason she is at the number 2 spot, because I've always wanted to see Peter, the dad. This is the story I've wanted to see for a very long time. Since they introduced Spider-Girl of the MC2 universe, I've wanted to see this story. And we're finally going to see it. But that leads us to our last pick.
Number 1.
Number 1 is Cindy Moon, or Silk. Now, I know a lot of you are saying, what the hell? This character hasn't been out a year. And you're right. She's a very new character. But I don't know why. You know, I really have no justification for this. I just really, really like this character. The story is, there was another person bit by that radioactive spider all those years ago, which we never got to see, because Ezekiel, a character who Spider-Man has run into years ago, met her and put her in a bunker. And it's not like he just snatched her away. They both talked to her parents. They planned all this. And she went into this bunker and stayed there for what I think in comic book timeline was 10 years. And then Original Sin comes up. And at a point during this story arc, every Marvel character involved is made aware of a very, very crucial secret. For Thor, we don't know what it was, but it was enough for him to no longer be worthy to wield the hammer. For Captain America, it was a secret that the Illuminati kept from him when deciding what to do of events that are going to lead into the new Secret War. And for Spider-Man, it was the fact that Cindy Moon existed. Had this secret not been unveiled, she would have probably spent the rest of her life in this metal coffin, for lack of a better term. She releases him, and suddenly there's another Spider player in the world. And she's pissed at him at first, because the whole reason she's put in there is so Morlun, a villain who showed up in Spider-Verse, would not come and take them down. Which, he said, yeah, I've killed him twice. But then she's like, wait a minute, you killed him twice? I thought you just killed him. If you killed him twice, what? And that story is come and gone. It's been settled. But the biggest reason I like this as a relationship, they're in this big vocal argument. And they get closer to each other to argue. And suddenly they are embraced in a very heated kiss. And it has something to do with pheromones and a connection between them. And here's the kicker for this. During Spider-Verse, they actually went out of their way to have her thinking about it while all these other Spider people are around. None of these other Spider people, with the exception of Kane, and it's very diluted when compared to Peter Parker, she has no connection like she does with Peter to any of these other Spider people. So it's a connection that is very, very specific to not only Peter Parker, but Peter Parker of this reality, of her reality. And that attraction is still there, and it is very, very heated, to the point where they cannot be too close to each other for too long. And I honestly don't think she has any problem with this. She likes Peter. And I think on some level, Peter likes her the same way. There was definitely a connection, especially at the end of Spider-Verse. But they didn't go through with it. And now, she has her own series, which is awesome, and from what I'm told, she and Spider-Gwen, their series will continue after Secret Wars. I don't know how that's going to happen. I don't know how that would fit, at least for Silk. But as of right now, she's trying to find her family, who disappeared about a year after she went into hiding. She has no way of finding them. There's no paper trail, nothing. And the story is still in flux, so we don't know how it's going to end. But there's just so much mystery around Cindy Moon that I am intrigued, to the point where I had to put her on par with Mary Jane Watson for this story. So that is my list of the top 10 romantic love interests of Spider-Man's universe. Now, these are my own personal opinions, as I've said before. If you disagree with them, please let me know. Tell me in the comments below if you think, yeah, I'm totally with you. If you think, no, you're stupid. Why is Betty Brant not at #1 or something like that? Let me know. And remember, anybody who leaves a comment on YouTube, not on Twitter, not on Facebook, will get a chance to win this thing here. This Transformers Beast Wars imported action figure of a character. I don't recall his name. He had something to do with the control of time. He could slow it down, maybe rewind it, I don't remember. But he transforms into a giant tanuki. It's awesome. I love this thing. I actually have another one. I got this at Detour this year, and it's still sealed. It's still in the package, and I almost kept this for myself, but I thought, you know what? I need something to give back to the people who have made me want to keep doing these videos. Even though it's a small list, I feel I owe it to you guys. So, more videos coming, and you have until episode 49 to leave your comments on the bottom here. And on episode 50, I will name who wins this action figure. But until then, until the next episode anyway, this is the Geek saying, good journey.